Heavy Magazine. This is Jordan McDonald. I'm super thrilled to be speaking with Kris here and Heavy and introducing a few new concepts that are going to be flying out there in the Sydney landscape in coming weeks, coming months, coming days. I think specifically we're speaking about DINGBATS Party Pit today. Yeah, I mean, I've got a thirst for hard rock and heavy metal, and especially with my entire crew and community by my side. And so this is one of the reasons that I started this event. And so I'm really thrilled that Mark's asking me some questions about it. So let's rock and roll. Let's go.
Fantastic, Jordan. Thanks for joining us this evening, my friend.
Thanks, dude. It's great to be here.
My pleasure. So, we're here primarily to talk about your exciting new Sydney monthly music adventure, the Dingbats Party Pit. But first, I think it's important that people actually know who you are and how we came to this point. So, let's go back in time to December the 11th at a venue many people might remember called Frankies Pizza. Like, fill us in on that particular dark, dark night.
I'm glad other people remember it because I don't remember much about it.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah. Look, that was 10 years of my life, and it was 10 years well spent. It was fantastic. And it's one of these like classic examples of the whole like fake it till you make it thing. I had this brilliant business partner who pulled me into the mix when I was selling him beers because I used to tour with bands around the United States, and I'd come back to Australia, and the closest thing to a craft beer would be your Little Creatures, Coopers, or whatever, but there wasn't too much in the way of funky options out there. And so I started distributing all of these interesting beers into the country. And there was this dude who had this great little venue called Shady Pine Saloon. And I'd sell him a bunch of American beers. And one night he pulled me aside and he was like, "Hey, man, I've got this idea. I want to do a rock and roll club. I have a space in the Sydney CBD. It's a totally untried and untested area for this kind of thing." At that point in time, everyone would go to the CBD to go to work, finish work, go home. You just wouldn't hang out there. And he had this concept to throw a gig every night of the week, 7 days a week till 4 a.m. And he thought I was the solution to it. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I said, yes, let's do this thing. And, fast forward 10 years, Frankie's Pizza had built its name as, like I guess a bit of a trusted force in the rock and roll sort of world. And December 11 or whatever it was, 2022, that was exactly 10 years after the night that we opened the joint. And yeah, thanks for drawing me back to that occasion, dude, because I had like lots of great and terrible nights in that venue over the course of its history, but I'd never had a night like that one. It was really weird. It was really bittersweet. It was so strange. It was like a place I was really proud of, and I didn't want to see it get fucked up. But like part of that evening was that people went there, they were celebrating the place, but they were also kind of pulling it apart while they were there. And so it was a little bit strange. I had to sort of surrender it to the people.
All right.
Everybody wanted a slice of the place, and they were physically taking pieces of the venue with them.
All right.
And I had to turn off this protective thing inside of me where like usually I'd be like, "Hey, don't take that thing off the wall or don't do that thing." But on this night, it was like, why would you stop people from taking things? Because it ain't going to be here tomorrow.
Mm.
Let them take it. And so it was otherworldly, man. It was a different night. It was a really different night.
I bet you.
Um, yeah, I've not experienced anything like it prior, and I hope not to experience it again because it didn't really sit right. It was strange.
No, I remember at the time, mate, like everyone wanted to know what was next. Like, would Frankie's stay the same and simply move address? Would it be revamped elsewhere? Would something similar come out? Like, people really didn't know. And at the time, you didn't really know yourself, did you?
No, oh, look, one thing that I did know is that I never wanted to do exactly that again. I'd never want to replace that, replicate that. And I think if you tried, it would be like belittling what we'd built, you know. It was what it was. You can't repeat history. We just need to start fresh and try something else. And you know, there are plenty of fresh ideas under the sun, and let's explore those. You know, Frankie's was just so beautiful for what it was, and I I love like talking with people about crazy shit that went down in that space, but I don't want to do it again, dude.
Nah, no, it's sort of
Let's let's
it's
let's
a
let's
fight.
make more
Now, people will be glad to know that since Frankie's closed, you sort of branched off into doing things with restaurant and, of course, you're drumming. But you're coming back now with Dingbats Party Pit. Like it's one night a month at this stage, but it's going to feature music. It's going to be run by yourself, who people know and love for helping out in the music industry. But where did the seeds for Dingbats actually start? Where do they grow from?
well, I started this new company and this came out of I hadn't planned this thing, but a bunch of characters came out of the mix and were like, "Hey, I'm hoping to start a new music venue, or I've got an existing venue, but and I want to start a live music arm, but I don't know how to put all of the pieces together to get to that place. And I don't know much, but I do know how to do that."
That's the
So I kind of like built a business around it, and it's been it's been tracking quite nicely, but there was just this one occurrence that went down a couple of months ago where a friend of mine, he's got this venue and I know the venue. I've kind of dug it for some time, but I had no idea that it had this underground space, completely unutilized, unrealized beauty in its kind of like imperfections. And it's just like this really tacky but fucking amazing subterranean red light fucking dive. And I just walked in there and I just felt like all of like the 80s hair metal gods calling in my ear to do something. It was like the moment you walk down there, you hear Rat round and round just queue up and play.
nice, nice.
So yeah, I didn't anticipate doing a night like this, but a friend of mine has this great venue. He's got a basement space that was not being used, and he just wanted to sort of bounce off me with for some ideas. And I went down there and I was like, man, this is like fucking Hollywood 1987. Like it was like the Viper Room.
All right.
And so I just thought, let's just trial this one event, Dingbats Party Pit. It's going to be party rock. All of the soundtrack is going to be upbeat party rock, hard rock, heavy metal, fucking hair metal, whatever you want to call it. We'll have a good time, and we're going to throw on a whole like plethora of live bands, but they're not going to be bound to any one genre. It's going to be, the wider scope of hard rock, which is kind of what I really enjoyed doing at Frankie's Pizza, was like mixed bills, not sticking to like a grind bill, a power metal bill, a classic rock bill. I'd like combining all of those worlds,
Righty,
and
yeah.
then you get really juicy kind of mix of clientele that, man, we're all like-minded and we all get down and we all get along, and provided the bands are good, it's cool. You don't all need to fit into the same, parameters.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm doing at Dingbats, and um the response has been pretty fantastic so far. Everyone's like hitting me up from afar, and people are traveling from all over the country to come to this thing, and I'm like, holy shit. I've created a bit of a monster here. But here's the thing, Kris. This is the cool bit, and this is the bit that took me a minute to figure out, but I've figured it out now. I saw this space. I thought this is such a fucking sick space. I need to do something here. I'm gonna I'm gonna trial this rock and roll nightclub, and there's not a single rock and roll nightclub exists in Sydney, Australia, right? When you're on tour, the show ends, there's always a place to go. There's always a cherry bar, you know. In Sydney, since Frankie's left, there hasn't been the cherry bar. There hasn't been the Rainbow Bar and Grill. There's nothing comparable in Sydney. And so that's why it was such a no-brainer to do this Dingbats thing. But it's only a once a monther. And the room is so fantastic. And I put the word out there, and I've kind of been inundated with interest from agencies and promoters and stuff. And I just think there's a greater opportunity there to not have it as a daily rock room. I think it can be used as a ticketed 250 to 300 cap space that's going to widen the scope of what's available for touring artists passing through Sydney. And it's not a function room. It feels amazing. And you know, when you buy a ticket to a gig and you go there to see the headline act, you walk in, you watch the show, you buy 2 drinks and you leave. This place is the opposite of that. You get there early. When the headline act comes on, it might even be a deterrent to all of the debauchery that you've already been getting up to. And then, you know, they finish and you hang out another 2 hours. This is different, man.
Yeah.
And so this is something that I'm not going to go into business in Sydney doing anything and unless it's rewriting the script a tiny bit.
Right, yeah. Now, let me just get this straight, mate. Like at the moment, it's a once a month music event, Dingbats Party Pit, but you're looking to broaden that by getting international and national touring acts in on other nights. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, it's already starting. So I still need to name and brand the room,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be booking that room out as a fresh space for acts to come past and play in. And once a month, there will always be Dingbats Party Pit as a rock and roll nightclub. But every other night of the week, we're going to be farming it out to promoters.
Nice. Then you were talking about location before. I don't know much about Sydney, but I believe it's in the CBD underneath the arcade bar. Is that correct?
What do you mean you don't know much about Sydney? You're here every other week, dude.
I don't know where I'm going. I know my way from venue to venue.
Yeah, so it's just around the corner from the old Frankies Pizza site. 16 O'Connell is between the main CBD district and Circular Quay. It's very central. It's accessible by train and all that bullshit, but there's been a little bit of a, I guess, lag in time where there used to be a lot of this sort of stuff going on in the CBD, but now all of like the live music events have kind of been spread from outside of the CBD and placed in suburban areas. And you get a whole bunch of action in Sydney in the inner west, which rules. It's like a vibrant part of Sydney. But the CBD's been it's kind of been a little bit of a drought for hard rock and heavy metal for the last couple of years, and I'm hoping to bring a bit of that action back.
Right, yeah. Now, the opening night, the official opening party is on Friday, March the 7th, which is going to feature Mannequin Death Squad. You got Poison Us, Big Red Fire Truck, Bloody Legends, and The Hush, as well as a host of other things like tattoo competitions, DJs. It's going to be a real party, but where can people find out more information about that and get tickets? Because I'm sure it's going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, yeah, we just put it on sale last week, and yeah, it's moving, dude. And I've actually reduced the capacity a little bit because I'm pretty sure there's going to be like a shit ton of guests and VIPs and all that sort of stuff coming through the room. And it's a 300 capacity space, but it's it's tight. It's up close and personal. It's very much got that like intimate kind of vibe to it. So I don't want to oversell the thing.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've pulled it back a little bit. Yeah, man, it's ripping. It's on sale now. And you can find more information on that at the Dingbats Party Pit Instagram page. Tickets are sold through Moshtix. You can probably follow a heavy link. You can follow a Instagram link to Dingbats. It's all there. And we've got a number of partners now who are all giving equal push to this campaign. So Young Henry's Beers behind it. Jack Daniels were who I really wanted to get behind it because they just speak to the whole nature of the event. And they're putting a national campaign behind the whole thing starting next week. So all of my homies, I'm kind of urging them to get tickets now before the posers steal all of the tickets.
Before people are
But
begging.
don't worry, show up anyway, and I'll let you in. It's oh yeah, I'm gonna be
The same
I'll
old.
be working. I'm actually really looking forward to hanging out there on the front line and breaking all of the rules myself.
Well, before we go, bro, you mentioned this briefly before, but this has all sort of come about due to a new company that you've started called Night Ride as well. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, the Night Ride thing came about completely organically. I'd worked for a whole collection of restaurants and venues where I was putting in unique entertainment, and that's kind of my thing. I don't like to rehash anything that's already been done. The reason I'm here is to connect venues with the artists who are going to really kick ass in their space, and artists with new places to play that aren't on the same tired touring circuit, because there are so many great eligible spaces in Sydney that just haven't been realized yet. They're there. They're being used for a purpose other than what they could be, properly exploited for, which is bringing hard rock and heavy metal into a new spot. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, dude. And it was a bit of a risk, but it's working so far.
Good on you, brother. Well, I'm sure I'm not the only one who wishes you the world of success, brother. You've done a lot for the Australian music industry over the years, bro, with all your little ventures, mate. And it's good to see you back and growing bigger again.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, it was great to talk.